Hey guys, it's Shadow Soul Dweller here, coming with you with another news and information video. Today it's a game I've been in anticipation for since it was announced last year, and that's Lord of the Rings Shadow of War. Now, mainly I've got massive anticipation for this because I picked up Shadow of Mordor on the off chance that the fact that I love Lord of the Rings, so it could be a decent game to have, and it turned out to be one of my favourite games ever to come out. I was absolutely blown away, and I know a lot of other people were as well. So let's get into this. Well, the first big leak they gave this time around for the game was that you would be able to recruit and build an army and take over fortresses and claim land. Now basically that's the emphasis of the whole game. There's been addition to it, hence Shadow of War. This time it looks pretty awesome what they're doing with it. I mean, they're showing that mainly you'll be able to grow your forces through beating rivals into submission, growing further into land, and you'll be able to do things like the mind print that you could do in the original game. Also you'll find there's groups of orcs and uruks, Uruk-hai, etc. fighting in the fields or in their camps. There'll be ones that have been captured. If you save them, you can also recruit them in as well, and I think they've shown that ones that you save will come with a higher level of loyalty from the beginning. You fight along them, and basically their loyalty grows more and more as they grow. Then eventually get to a point where they'll sacrifice themselves, or they'll become spies, and you can send them in to spy in other orc groups and fortresses, etc. Although, well, basically don't let them get caught, or it will basically be a case of big sword meets squishy head, and then squishy body left over meets the not so soft floor after being thrown off the top of a tower, and a glorious little cutscene. Now, like your enemies, you'll be able to place a commander orc or Uruk-hai inside your fortress. That will be renamed then as an overlord. If the overlord has a theme to him, like fire for example, then the fortress itself will also gain that theme. What they showed in the gameplay footage looked pretty cool with that. The fact that, say you have an overlord, like I said, with a fire theme, the traps become fire based, creatures that can be summoned in that area will become fire based, things like the Caragors in the area will be flaming Caragors instead. So it's cool how they've put that twist, so you have a whole variety of things, and obviously depending on who you put in place for your fortress, you can shape how your fortress is going to come out. Now, another thing that's been proved upon this time round is how many skills and abilities that the Dark Lord army has. Obviously, skills and abilities will also be transferred over to your guys as you recruit more and more. But basically, they've added in a whole new set of things, like people that are scared to certain styles, certain groups, like elements, like we said before, the fire. There'll be ones that are terrified of magic. There'll be ones that are scared of certain types of revivals, which we'll get into later on in the video. But another thing they've added in is spells for the orcs. Pretty cool. The one they showed in the release footage they gave actually shows a necromancy orc. So, you know, apparently fighting hundreds of orcs isn't enough, so you'll have to deal with that one annoying little orc sat in the back, reviving them constantly as you go. You know, just to make it even more reasonable when you do launch your game controller across the room in a rage. But anyway, the other abilities include a berserk orc who just attack and attack and attack non-stop with an insane amount of strength. And there's also another one that does a Court of Thrum or Shout style attack like you have in Skyrim. I literally showed one that just screams in your face and sends you flying across the level. And another one is the Suicide Bomber orc, which I think is pretty self-explanatory really. The further additions they've put in for the orc system as well are orc types, like the Bard orc is one they showed in the video. He literally has an old style, like, you know, stringed flute as a weapon, and he can sing and he can play it to improve the performance of the orcs around him. But also his strengths and weaknesses are all based around musical themes. It's going to be interesting to see where they go with that one further on down the line. But yeah, and just basically there's new footage coming out in the next couple of days. I hope that will show us a little bit more on that, because they're supposed to be focusing towards that on the future videos. And also there's an orc known as the Epic Bomb Orc. It's basically able to destroy walls and infiltration points, etc. Basically, if you watch the Two Towers, you'll see that there was a giant bomb that was carried by some of the orcs that blew up the walls, so they could attack. Well, basically that's the same concept there. Thing is as well, Talion himself, who play as, has also been given a whole new load of abilities now, which is including but not limited to a whole new range of executions. Some of them look incredibly brutal. It's pretty awesome. Also, on top of that, they've shown there's going to be a lot more dismemberment in this one. You can chop limbs off and chop limbs up as well, and you can behead people all over the place. Instead, this time you can cut legs off and leave them alive. So it's going to have a nice mixture of that gore and just, well, if you're a bit of a sadist or for that sort of thing, like, let's face it, we've all got that little dark side in the game. It's good to scratch that itch with those bits. Also, you're going to have the ability to summon a Dire Caragor, or one of your skills. Now, Dire Caragor is basically, it's a normal Caragor, but it is fire resistant because it's got a slightly different skin, and it can actually call for backup for other Caragors to come and support it. When you upgrade the skill, eventually you'll be able to summon a Graug as well, and when you upgrade it to the absolute top point, you can then get a Drake, which, let's face it, who wouldn't want a giant dragon bird of death to call their pet? I mean, you know, you can't name them in the game, but I'm pretty positive when I'm playing, I'm going to call mine something like Gaston, or even if it's just my head anyway. But Talion will be able to use his abilities, as well as a new one they've shown is called Shadow Pull, which it's quite cool, because I think a lot of times in Shadow of Mordor I wish I would have had this skill. Basically, in Shadow of Mordor you had an ability where you could launch your sword towards an enemy and teleport yourself to the point of the sword. Well, this time they're doing it the other way around as well. You can do a Shadow Pull, so you can teleport an enemy towards you. So obviously, if you want to separate a target from a group and slay them, this is the perfect skill to have. Also, as a backup now, you'll be able to summon humans or orcs as bodyguards in the fields, and you'll also be able to take over larger creatures as well. Especially large creatures like Ulogs. Again, seen from Two Towers. If you don't know what an Ulog is, that's the giant creature that was pushing the tower towards the wall. Basically, they've added a whole new range of things in there like that. I mean, there's loads of different ways you can fight in this game, obviously. There's loads of different things you can do. I mean, if you want, you can literally go around chopping off the arms and legs off all your enemies and leaving them lying on the floor to die if you want. So, but as I mentioned earlier, going back to fortress types, you also can have your own warfare type to a degree. So, as a spy that I mentioned earlier, if he's able to enter, he can give you numbers on an enemy force. He can tell you what traps they've got, or he can even disable traps, etc. There's also flags you can carry, the enemy can carry when having these battles. They give certain abilities, say stuck in the ground, and everything in the affected area has that extra health, or that it's easier to knock down, or they're immune to poison, things basically like that. It's just again a good way of throwing up some tactics into the game and choosing how you want to fight. I mean, you know, the variety they've shown for this game of how you'll be able to change your fight is one of the things that's appealed to me, because I love the original Shadow of Mordor, but sometimes the gameplay did get repetitive because of the limitations in the combat system. So, well, and the last thing I really want to cover fully was the Nemesis system from the original game has had a massive upgrade. Now, this was the big selling point they put on the original game, Shadow of Mordor, but it has returned bigger and better than ever. I mean, they've added small things in like more scars and changes to strengths and weaknesses every time they get revived, but also now the way they die actually can affect the way they come back. For example, some of the ones they've shown us, there was one orc that had been burnt to death by Talion, and when he came back his skin was all charred and crispy, there was bits flaking off and it didn't exactly look appealing, and basically it's another one that comes back. He's been slayed, stabbed, he comes back half rotted skin, covered in maggots. I mean, both of them really, to me, it just, well, looked like something I'd expect to give them Wetherspoons breakfast. Yeah. For those of us that are actually in the UK to know what Wetherspoons is, trust me, if you've ever had one of their breakfasts, you'd understand where I'm coming from. So then, the game is coming out on the 10th next month, and I'm going to be grabbing it the moment it comes out. I'm going to be running it through, and I will be doing a first analysis of the game, basically on my very first gameplay, first impressions, etc. How I feel it was compared to what they've shown us, what's coming, any surprises, etc. Obviously, I'll try and avoid any spoilers I can in it. So, yep, that will be the next video drop when it comes to Shadow of War. That I can guarantee. If more news comes out in the meantime, I'll be dropping any news I can on that as well. See, hit that subscribe button, get yourself kept up to date, so you have notifications when my videos drop down. See, always appreciate a like, it lets me know if I'm going in the right direction, or if you think I should do better with my videos, feel free to drop a dislike. And just let me know what you think of what you've seen so far for Shadow of War in the comments. Anything you're looking forward to, anything you think they could do to improve on it. And I will see you out there.